Hey, HappiDaze here, and today we're just going to break down kind of my thoughts on co-op so far. This is going to be a deep video about how it all works, but just kind of talk about it at a high level and what my thoughts are so far of the season. I am in the Master ranking. As of recording this video, I'm actually at Master 3, which is level 50. So I had quite a bunch of matches on here. So for those of you who aren't aware, this is a new game mode that just came out. Kind of helps go alongside these thing co-op quests, and really it's a PvP mode where it's 3 turns of battles. You fight an opponent, they have a team, you have a team. You can do buffs, they can do buffs, same thing for debuffs, and the idea is really you have to win 2 out of the 3 rounds of this match. So this season, obviously the main characters that are being buffed are pretty much any of the units that just came out for 12th anniversary, so you'll see a lot of teams out there that are leveraging teams that's exactly like this, with all the new emperors, with Emu. It's just kind of how this season is so far. So again, 3 turns, and what you really want to do is figure out when you go into a battle, how are you going to approach those 3 turns, right? Because unfortunately, I think that depending on who goes first, you can get a real advantage if you go second, right? For every turn, you can see what your opponent does and kind of counter what they do, right? So in the first round, if they just do a 1-tap or do barely any damage, boom, you can just do a little bit more damage and quite easily get the first victory, and that puts them on their back foot for the second and third matches. Similarly, if you go really hardcore on that first match, then you could go really all out in the second, try to beat them before they're able to get their specials off. There's just a lot of kind of crazy things that you can do strategy-wise to try to get the most advantage. So to get the most advantage here, we do have co-captains, similar to what we had for the regular co-op quest. The only difference here now is that for the co-captains that are out here, they have an additional new ability for all of the 5 or 6 classes, you know, attacker, debuffer, support, all those different classes basically have different effects now as well for the co-op duel. So I think for this season, from what I found, as you can see, I have a Lilith on my team here, and she basically gives an extension of beneficial effects for 1 turn, which is really awesome because you get 3 turns with the Emperor units there, as long as you use Emu first to get that territory crew on the field. So it just helps you just get buffs throughout the whole event, right? So you don't really have to worry about it. Makes it a lot easier for content there. So that's why I am going with Lilith for here. I did end up changing her to be Stussy towards the end of the event. So what I recommend people do is that at the end of the event, if you go to the rankings, you can actually scroll up to the top of the leaderboard and see what people are using on their teams to go ahead and, you know, use their co-captain. And what I found by using Stussy as opposed to Lilith is Lilith will give a buff to, I think it's 30% to Cerebral, 20% to Free Spirit, or that might be swapped, but basically it only really benefits a couple characters on this crew, whereas if you go with Stussy, for example, she gives a bunch of buffs to this crew. I think the only one who's not buffed by what Stussy does is really the Luffy, right? So if I remember correctly, I think it's Cerebral, and there's one other class that Stussy gives. I think it's Driven. I think it's Driven and Cerebral get the buffs up under Stussy. And like I said, that encompasses everyone except for Luffy. So it just gives you that much more damage, right? You want to try as much damage as you can in as many turns as you can. And try to see if you can't play it that way. So again, kind of interesting how these co-captains evolve. Look at the rank list, see what people are using, and then try to deduce why are people using those co-captains, right? Is it because they're giving some kind of special ability? Are they giving a lot of buffs for damage? And one thing I did note is that obviously this season, it seems like the buff extension is kind of the big best one that you can do for the season, but the fact that you get a 35% boost to your damage if you're using an attacker character is pretty crazy, especially if you have like a team here that can do 3 turns of buffs, right? Just getting a free 30% damage on top of some of this other stuff that this team can do is just ridiculous, right? So it'll be interesting to see how it goes forward. It's a little bit hard to judge on this season so far just because there's so many people running these teams that it gets really hard. So as you go through the different events, as you win battles starting from the very first league, you'll start gaining basically ranks, stars to get ranks. And what you'll find is at the beginning, you get 3 stars, you can evolve really quick. start getting from the novice to the intermediate into master. And what I like about this new system is that once you hit a threshold of a new rank, you cannot go below that rank, right? So it makes it a lot less riskier for you to do the PvP matches. I was wondering, like, how are we going to do this when it comes to, you know, people who are going for obviously the ranking rewards, which are pretty good. If you can hit top 1000, you can get a good amount of gems, you can get some alternate art ink pens, so that's what people probably should be shooting for. And as long as you get into master 1, you could probably get pretty assured that you'll luckily get, you know, into that top 1000, at least from what I've seen so far. Obviously on events where people don't pull as much, you'll probably have better luck in terms of being able to rank much higher. This event is obviously going to be kind of sweaty just because of everyone's pulling for the anniversary units, right? Because they're great, they'll be useful for months to come. So everyone has kind of the optimal teams there, and the real differentiator, like I said, is kind of that co-op captain who you're using in that slot. So yeah, once you hit your rank, you know, you shouldn't feel any reason not to go for it, not to go for more additional matches. Like I said, you probably want to end up somewhere around like the top 500 by the last day or last couple days to kind of guarantee yourself that top 1k. But that's kind of the strategy going forward there. So to do the most damage, what you're really going to do is obviously use buffs, attack, slot boost, type, chain multiplier, and then conditional buffs as well, right? That just, and especially if they can stack, that just lets you do like the most amount of damage. Of course, for co-op captains, if you use the co-op ability, sometimes it gives additional damage there for certain classes and things like that. Makes it really helpful just depending on what the character's own typing class are, who they buff. And then really, like I said, you're just trying to also get rid of the mechanics of the stage. So when you go into each of these stages, they all have different mechanics in terms of what's boosted, what's not boosted, what debuffs, what buffs apply on the stage. You do want to make sure that you read, especially when you get to the master level, to make sure that, yeah, maybe you can't beat your opponent on stage 2, for example, after you win stage 1, but you know that they won't have an ability to get rid of a debuff like a threshold or a rainbow shield when it comes to that third fight, right? So there's a little bit of, like I said, strategy there of when you sacrifice fights to win and when you don't. So it's kind of really interesting, and then I think if you look at Chaozu's channel, he has a lot of really good strategies. He's been just posting a lot of videos about this game mode, which is great. Definitely recommend checking him out. He has a lot of good stuff on this space and about using it. But once you do get to the highest echelons, right, once you get to that Master Level 3, which you get when you hit to the 50 stars, there's not a ton of reason to keep grinding unless you really want to, right? If you want to get into maybe the top 100, 200, you can keep going competitive. But what I tend to find is that, and this is probably speaks to the One Piece strategy that we kind of all use for different GP events, right, is people kind of throwing matches to help other people, right? So we talked about once you hit a master rank or rank up or get a promotion in this mode, boom, you don't have to worry about getting D-ranked, right? So you can kind of help as many people as you want get up the ladder. Once you get to Master 3, I found a lot more people were just running kind of just auto teams, right, that were there. So just really interesting in terms of, you know, people kind of doing community strategy without even really mentioning it, because it's the first one that we've had there. And yeah, so that's what I recommend, is that once you hit Master Level 3, just help some people a couple of times a day, just do some auto matches, let people go ahead and you know, rank up, get promotions. Obviously that could be a little weird if you're fighting guild members and you let them win to help get them up, right? But that's kind of what happens sometimes. So yeah, make sure you help everyone out once you hit that rank, your next rank up, help some people below get a little bit higher, help everyone get the max rewards there, and let's just make it so that everyone can hopefully get a good chunk of gems and good stuff from this game. But overall, I do kind of like it so far. It'll be interesting, like I said, to see what happens when people don't have every single unit, right? I think it'll be a lot more interesting the teams that you see running, and we'll just make it for a better experience overall. So overall, I do like the game mode. Probably would say it's like a 7 out of 10, I would say. So yeah, I do enjoy it actually better than the normal co-op mode, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting game mode. A lot of potential going forward, and just gives more benefit to those banners that have these units on it that will be boosted, right? Just more reasons to pull from Bandai, of course. So that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I appreciate it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this new event. Do you like it? Do you not like it? You know, what downfalls do you see? Would love to hear from you guys and from the community. So until next time, be kind to each other. Thanks.